This is section 1 of the video. Photography Digital Processing 1. This is for Visual Communications 1275. And this video is about composition. And there's a good chance I'll end up splitting it into 2 or 3, even though I had originally intended it to be just one video. So composition is how a photographer arranges visual elements within their frame. It's meant to be a pleasing organization of objects within your rectangle. So with composition, if you don't get it right, your picture is going to look off. So the idea is to know how to do it so that you can make it look good. And here we're going to, this slideshow, this video, or series of videos, we'll look at the following concepts in composition: balance, repetition, perspective, rule of thirds, line, internal framing, framing and cropping, and layout, either horizontal or vertical. So first off, balance. As it says, it's related to but distinct from symmetry. So things don't have to be mirror images of each other in order to be balanced. And it's, as it says, the quadrants, various quadrants of the image have to complement each other in aesthetically pleasing ways. So here I've got similar numbers of objects on either side. You got a little bit of difference in color. You may or may not say this is perfectly balanced. What's interesting too, though, is also the shadows that were created from, basically reflections that were happening. So on the right-hand side, you've got it darker, although that darkness extends a little bit into the left. And on the left, it's lighter. So it's kind of an interesting balance in this picture. And this one, these are the Skyhawks. Just happened to catch their show one day, quite by accident. But in this picture, you've got 2 of them on the top half of the picture and 1 on the bottom half, but also you've got that windsock and some sort of a banner at the bottom. So, and they're all red and white, and it kind of balances out from top to bottom. But also the 2 on the top are on the right-hand side, and the 2 on the bottom, or the objects on the bottom, are on the left-hand side. So it balances from top to bottom. It also balances from left to right. So it was kind of an interesting picture that way. And to be honest, when I took this was actually a screenshot from a video. When I took the video, it would have actually been horizontal. So I've cropped out the sides to get more focus on the subjects, to get more focused on the paratroopers. And this one, you've got a few miniature horses. And again, maybe not necessarily perfectly balanced, but I think it balances out pretty good. You've got the one on the left who's kind of standing partially sideways, and the one on the right is face on. But because there's the third one in the background that's standing sideways, it kind of balances off the fact that the other one's standing at an angle. So I think that one, it's fairly well balanced. Again, maybe not perfect, but I hope you can see where I'm going with that. Now, repetition. A repetition of a simple design element, whether it be shape, line, color, tone, or texture, is a useful composition tool in fine art and photography. Repetition can be used alone or in combination with other elements to create patterns, and the patterns can in turn be manipulated to create rhythm. So you might have balance and repetition mixed together. You might have color and repetition mixed together. With all of these elements, you're generally going to find that most pictures will include more than one element. It's not just going to have one thing. And I wouldn't necessarily say that this picture looks great, but it's definitely an example of repetition. And maybe that's its problem. The only thing it's got going for it is repetition. This picture is more interesting. It's been heavily edited. It's actually a picture of a chain link fence. And so you've got that repetition, that pattern created by the different links in the chain. And like I said, there was frost on it at the time, and I've done some editing to try and make the frost kind of pop in the picture. I've changed the shading a little bit and created a bit of a vignette. But I also changed it so it's more like as they used to call it, the fisheye view. So it's kind of stretched the image a little bit. Yeah. And here, perspective. In photography is basically the spatial relationship between subjects and the frame. So it's how everything in the frame fits together. And it suggests the way you compose your image helps your viewers see the world from a new perspective, yours, right? And that's one of the interesting things in any kind of art. I keep telling people, the idea in most forms of art, whether it's literature, whether it's photography, whether it's painting, drawing, sculpting, is to try and look at things a different way and present it to your audience so that they can see things the way you want them to see it. And that's what perspective is about. In here, with perspective and with the ways that you can arrange objects, it creates a sense of depth in the image. And remember, with photography, you're dealing with a two-dimensional surface, but by the way you arrange things, it can make things feel more three-dimensional. Okay, and as it says in that quote, right, it creates the illusion of depth. So here, I've got a picture of three flags. That's the Ermineskin Cree Nation flag, the Treaty 6 flag, and the Canadian national flag. And these flagpoles are actually all at the same height, but because of the perspective, because of how it was taken, it's created that angle, right? So you've got one lower down on the left and gradually going up higher diagonally as you go to the right. And this is actually a manhole cover. And so it was taken from fairly close in at an unusual angle compared to where you would normally be looking at it from. And I think it's created an interesting effect. Now, this one's the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is one that's fairly well known by people, and it's certainly used in painting and drawing as well. But the idea is that you divide your surface, in this case your screen, your image, into thirds vertically. So you evenly put in two lines to evenly divide it into thirds vertically, and you put in a couple of lines to evenly divide it horizontally. Now, as it says, it's a 3x3 grid, and in order to create balance and flow within the image, you want to put things along the lines, and also you want to put things where the lines intersect to try and create a sense of focus on them, because our eyes tend to focus on the areas where those lines intersect. So here, I've taken a picture of a model of DNA, and this has again been edited somewhat, so the colors are not the original colors. And if you put on the grid with the thirds, you see the spine of that model fairly closely matches the vertical line on the right-hand side. And on the horizontal, that blue piece is pretty much right across the vertical line, the top vertical line. and at the bottom there's a blue piece that's just above the bottom vertical line or horizontal line. Sorry. So it maybe could have been tightened up a little bit more, but there definitely was an attempt to try to fit things within this rule of thirds. The other thing is, whether it's a cell phone or a camera, generally there should be a setting where you can set up and draw in or put in the grid lines for you to see as you're taking pictures. Or they may possibly just have it set up so you've got squares to show you where the intersection of the lines would be, and you can use that to judge how you can use the rule of thirds as you're taking pictures. This is a stop sign that's just down the road from our school, and so I took this picture, and actually this one, it has been cropped. So I intentionally cropped it in such a way to fit the rule of thirds a bit better. And so as you see here, the one edge of the sign very closely mirrors the vertical line on the left, and the other edge of the sign very closely mirrors the vertical edge on the right. And the intersection points pretty much line up with where those edges end and then get angled off and in the next direction. So I've actually used the cropping tool to make it fit that rule of thirds quite well. And when we get into Lightroom and look at cropping in Lightroom, it automatically creates this grid pattern so you can see how your image fits within the rule of thirds as you're editing. Okay, this is a picture of our school, and I was using one of the school cameras for this one, and I must have really done a good job of paying attention to the grids on the camera, because this one I'm pretty sure I haven't edited, and yet you've got the school entrance and the brickwork that surrounds it dead center in that picture. And so the vertical lines basically line up with the edges of that brickwork, and the main the top of the main part of the school fits the top horizontal line, and the bottom of the school fits along the bottom horizontal line. So yeah, that's pretty much bang on when it comes to rule of thirds. To be continued.